Hey there, beautiful people of the world. I'm excited to be here. So in this video, I'm going to go over how to create responsive CSS cards using Flexbox and pseudo selectors. And in this video, you will learn how to make it responsive. So if you have it on mobile view, you're able to have it display in columns. So this is what it looks like on an iPhone. And I had a lot of fun building this, so hopefully you enjoy the video. And before we start, I really have a good time making these tutorials. If you could smash the like button and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. It helps out with the algorithm. So let's get started. I have Visual Studio Code opened and I have created a images folder with all the images that we will need. Next, I'm creating the CSS folder, and within that folder I'm creating a file, style.css. And that's the images, and now I'm going to create index.html. So let's start off by typing exclamation point and enter, and we get this skeleton of HTML. We'll rename the title responsive cards, and then we're going to link up the style sheet. So that's going to be within the href, it's going to be css/style.css. And watching tutorials in the past and when I was a beginner, just knowing how to build the cards is very useful, but I also enjoyed when there was other content implemented into it. So with this, I'm going to bring in the nav bar and the landing section. So that's going to be within the header, and I have everything highlighted that I just copied and pasted in. And I like to add comments as to where I'm at within the HTML and CSS. So I'm just going to type that out and then highlight it, and then control, it's going to be control / to comment it out. So I have a live server, and then you right click and on the index.html and view it on the live server. So this is what we have for the navigation so far. And I will start coding the cards. We're going to add a comment here just so we know where we are. And then we'll add a comment for the responsive cards start and responsive card end. Okay, so we're going to create a div, so that's a .card container. And then within that div, we're going to create another div, and it's going to be card. I'm going to control Z out of this. So within the card div, we're going to create a image box div. And within the image box div, we're going to have the image. And then it's going to be image source, and that's going to be the images folder. And the image that we have is LB3. So still within the image box div, I'm going to create a H4, and it's going to say silver membership. We'll shrink that down, and so we have more real estate. So you can see the image, it's coming up there. Now we're going to create a div content with an h2, and that's going to be card 1. Then below that we're going to have a paragraph tag, and I'm going to copy and paste the content that I'm putting in there, and it's just going to be simple lorem ipsum, and then I have the break there, so we have a break in the line so they all come out even. So that's all for the first card, and what I'm going to do now is copy, and we're going to create 2 other cards here. And then paste the 3rd card. So that's the area that is getting copied and pasted. Now we're going to start changing the images. We'll have it as gold membership, and then our card 2, change the image for the 3rd card, and we'll say platinum membership. So we have all the images coming up there. They are quite large, so they're taking up the majority of the screen. So now we're ready to hop over to the CSS and start some styling. We're going to start off with asterisks, and it is so we can get a clean slate. Okay, this is Google Fonts import, and we're going to be using the Montserrat font. So you just go onto the Google Fonts and sign up for a free account, and you can get those links to utilize the fonts. Okay, so we have the global asterisk. We're going to give it a margin of 0, a padding of 0, and a box sizing of border box. So I'm going to move this over so we can kind of see what we're viewing in the browser every time we control save. Now we're going to style the body. So that's everything within everything that we put in the HTML. And we're going to have it as a primary font family of Montserrat, and then a fallback of sans serif, just in case the Google font doesn't work. So for this section, I am going to copy and paste the navigations and the stylings. I'm going to scroll through it, so if you want to pause the video and copy it, I will also have a link in the description. So with the code, so we have the nav bar, the nav container, nav logo, with all the styling there. And we can see what it looks like in the browser. And I just find this helpful for beginners, so they can see what it looks like to add on. Like I said, starting off, it was just quite foreign to me. You could learn how to do some styling, but adding it into your own project is a little bit difficult. So there's some key points in the navbar alignment, just for your reference. Then we have all of the nav styling, and the hover color, the section 2 with the image, and the text. And that is all of the section 2, the landing page. So we're just going to make another comment here so we know where the landing section ends. All right, let's get to the fun part. We're going to create another comment just to let us know that we are starting the responsive cards. So starting off, we're going to use the card container div, and I'm going to highlight it here in the HTML. This is what we're styling. It's going to be position relative. We're going to give it a width of 100%. And display flex. Justify content center. Align items center. Then we're going to say flex wrap, and that's going to be wrap. So when the screen becomes narrower, those items are going to adjust into a column format. And then we're going to have the flex direction row. We're going to add some padding here. It's going to be 30 pixels. And that's going to be 30 pixels all the way around. So I'm going to copy the card container. Now we're going to style the card. So we'll just go back to look. So within the card container, we're into the card div. So we're also going to give this a position relative. We're going to give it a max width of 330 pixels. A height of 215 pixels. A background. It's going to be a off gray color with an opacity of around 78%. And we're going to give a margin of 50 pixels and 20 pixels. So that's going to be margin top and bottom 50 pixels, and then left and right 20. We're going to give it a padding of 20 pixels and 15 pixels. We're going to display flex. Then a flex direction of column. Now we're going to style some give it a box shadow. So that's going to be top 0, right 7, bottom 7, and left 3. And we're going to give it a light gray color. Then we're going to have a transition of 0.5 seconds of ease in. So now we're going to be styling the card container dot card hover. So when we hover over this, so it's going to be a height of 420 pixels. So you can see the image is moving here. And we will get to the image sizing so everything's formatted correctly here later on in the video. Now we're going to drop down to card container, card, and then the image box. We're going to give it a color of white. And again, a new shade of gray is the background. Position relative, a width of 260 pixels, and then a height of 260 pixels. Then we're going to set the top at minus 60 pixels. So this is going to give us our offset. And then we're going to give it a left of 20 pixels. And a z-index, we'll give it a 10 value. And again with the box shadow. To give it a more of a 3D feel to it. Now we're going to do border radius, and that's going to be 4 pixels, so we can kind of round out those edges. And here shortly we're going to style the image size. I know they're quite big right now. So now we're going to style the card container, card, image box, and then the H4. We're going to display flex, justify content, center, that's going to be align items center, and then we're going to give it a padding of 5 pixels all the way around. Now we're going to style the image. Great. Okay, so it's going to be a card container, card, image box, and then the image. So we're going to give it a max width of 100%, a border radius of 4 pixels again. So now you can see it's starting to come together here. Looks really cool. And when you open up, they expand into a row, and when you shrink it down, it will align into a column. All right, now it's going to be the card container, the card, and the content. We're going to say position relative. And we're going to give it a margin top of minus 140 pixels. A padding of 10 pixels and 5 pixels. And we're going to say text align center. So it's starting to hide behind the image. I'm going to shrink the Visual Studio Code down so we can see more of the browser while we style. We're going to give it a color. That's going to be a white. And then we're going to have the visibility as hidden. So see, that gets rid of the text. And this is before we hover over it. Next, we're going to be styling the hover. It's going to be opacity 0 and then transition 0.3 of a second. And then we're going to have it ease in and ease out. So you can see when we hover over, we can't see the text yet. That's because we haven't added in the pseudo selector for the hover. And we're going to give it a line height of 29 pixels. This just kind of creates some spacing in between the text. Okay, now we're going to style the paragraph tag. We're going to give it a padding of 12 pixels. Now it's going to be the card container.card hover content. And we're going to give it a visibility of visible. So when we hover over it, we'll be able to see the text. So we have to give the opacity a value of 1. Now we can see the text. We're going to give a margin top of -40 pixels and a transition delay of 0.3 of a second. So it smooths everything out. We're almost finished here. Okay. So we'll expand it out, see if everything snaps into place. Goes into a nice neat row, everything is center aligned, and when you hover, it looks great. And we'll inspect this just to make sure that it looks good on mobile phone. So what I'm going to do really quick is add a media query to get rid of the nav bar. I have other videos on how to create a nav bar with CSS and then in addition with JavaScript so you can get that hamburger menu. So when you shrink it down, see that nav bar goes away, and when you click, all the information comes out. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Please like and subscribe. I have a lot of fun doing this. It takes a lot of work, but I really enjoy it. Thank you guys so much.